first I was like, that's not a dead body there, is there? It looks like there's clothes and stuff on the ground. It's freezing and it's windy too. It's actually not a good time to fly the drone. Yeah, just like last time, there's your sign that it's super windy today. But with the topic of drones, how about this? You can pretty much see the Autel Evo 2. Apparently there's FCC filing recently, and you can see basically pictures, the specs, and the full manuals. So new drone coming soon, I guess. We were wondering whether or not there was going to be, like, for example, a new 1-inch sensor Evo. Well, I guess in this case, confirmation, yes there is. So with all this information, where do you start? I guess how about with the pictures first, like what the drone actually looks like. In many ways, it actually looks just like the regular Evo. It has its orange color and all that. You can see basically the front, the back, top-down views, what the battery and stuff looks like. There's even pictures of the drone opened up, it seems. But I guess the most interesting thing I saw when I was looking at this drone was the camera itself. For example, it looked like it's a camera that you can take out fairly easily just by the looks of it. It kind of reminds me of the camera that, like the Inspire, just with that round shape. And by the looks of it, you can basically use multiple cameras such as thermal and regular video camera. So multiple cameras, easy to take out. That basically means this is a drone that has interchangeable cameras. So that's actually really good, because that's something that a lot of people actually ask for in their drones, basically to change it for various situations. Aside from the actual photos of what the drone and stuff looks like, I thought this FCC label thing was kind of interesting, because it says here the specifications. The operating temperature, it says -10 to 40 degrees Celsius. So does that mean you can fly the drone in -10 temperatures, or does that stand for something else? Either way, that's kind of interesting. But the main meat and potatoes, I guess you could say, of all this information is the fact that you can see the full manual, and it basically tells you everything you'd want to know about the drone, the specs and everything like that. And for the aircraft description, it says the Evo 2 is a foldable quadcopter with a stabilized 3-axis camera gimbal and 4 different types of integrated HD cameras. For the gimbal and camera, it says the aircraft contains a high-precision 3-axis gimbal that keeps the camera steady while the aircraft is flying, ensuring image stability and clarity. To operate properly, the gimbal temperature must be between -10 degrees Celsius and 50 degrees Celsius. You can use the remote control's gimbal pitch dial or Autel Explorer app to adjust the pitch. So I guess maybe you could operate this drone in -10 temperatures, and that's pretty good. And that's, for reference, it says 14 degrees Fahrenheit and 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And then information about the cameras, it says 3 user-changeable gimbal modules are available for use for the Evo 2. The 586 gimbal, it provides an 8K video camera. 383 gimbal provides a 6K camera with a 1-inch sensor, and a dual sensor gimbal provides an infrared camera and an 8K camera. Just by reading that, this thing is going to be no joke in terms of being a competitor, I guess, especially if you're using it for professional purposes. With those kind of specs and options, I could imagine, like, even emergency workers and stuff like that, they will choose this drone, for example, potentially, if it makes more sense financially, as well as just the fact that it gives you way more options. For a regular hobbyist too, a 6K camera with a 1-inch sensor. Again, it sounds great on paper, although we haven't seen actual footage, but still, this is going to be something to look for, I guess. You can also see diagrams of the actual camera gimbal itself and instructions here on how to remove the gimbal. It looks like you'll need to unscrew it, but again, that basically means it's interchangeable camera, so it gives you a lot of flexibilities depending on what you need. So many times, for example, with the drones that have, I guess, the cameras already built in and all that, so a lot of people would say, oh, I gotta buy a new drone now just to get a different camera, whereas this, you can basically just switch it up. So potentially in the future, maybe they could release something that's completely different and you won't actually need to buy a new drone. So more specific details about the camera in this manual. It says the 3 camera modules are available for use for the Evo 2. For the 8K camera, it says takes photos with a resolution of up to 48 MP, 8000 by 6000, and records 8K video at 25 FPS, 6K video at 30 FPS, or 4K video at either 30 or 60 with a bitrate of up to 120 Mbps. Then there's the Ultra HD camera with a 1-inch sensor. Takes photos with a resolution of up to 20 MP, 5472 by 3648. and records 5.5K video at 60 FPS or 4K video at 120 FPS with a bitrate of up to 120 Mbps. The lens aperture is adjustable with a range of f2.8 to f11. And this will be the one with the infrared. It says a dual sensor camera, includes the 8K camera plus an infrared imaging camera. It can operate in visible infrared and dual image modes. In addition, this camera takes infrared images at a resolution of either 640 by 512 or 320 by 256 and records 720p video at 30 FPS in dual image mode. Is that accurate? That's actually pretty high for a thermal camera. So man, with these specs of the camera, this thing is going to be something to reckon with. One thing did come in my mind though is, even though it says 8K and all that, it says it does 120 Mbps max. That might be an issue. Because you could record a really high resolution and all that, but it doesn't have the right bandwidth, so to speak, then it's not going to be as good. It's kind of like the original Mavic Pro. It might record 4K and stuff, but the bitrate and all is kind of low. They're also increasing, I guess, the vision system on the actual drone. It says Omnidirectional Binocular Vision Sensing System. The Evo 2's front, rear, left, right, top, and bottom binocular vision sensing systems use image data to calculate the distance between the aircraft and the potential obstacles. So it's probably going to be no Skydio 2 or anything like that, but at least they're actually adding stuff like that, I suppose. It's just going to be a matter of time when all drones are going to have stuff like that. Then they show things like the controller, and by the looks of it, it looks like it's going to have an actual built-in screen as well. Because it says here like the flight information panel, it displays the flight status, warning messages, and live video feed. So I'm guessing it's going to be the same thing like their other one, where you could either just use this or attach something like your phone to it. Now, one thing about the Evo that's supposed to be a benefit for a lot of professional users or people who know what they're doing is people say things like the geofence for the DJI is really annoying. For example, I experienced it myself. You get all the permission and everything like that, but then all of a sudden this drone stops you. So you have to go through everything from DJI and all that. I've heard people losing work. Although according to this, it sounds like the Evo 2 does have something inside the drone that stops people from flying, but it says it's only activated in certain places. As it says here in the manual, flight restricted area illustration. The Evo 2 system automatically recognizes flight restricted areas in which flights are limited by default. The feature ensures that the aircraft complies with legal flight area requirements. Flight restrictions are enforced only within countries which require manufacturer restrictions by law. Currently, mainland China is the only country or region that requires manufacturers to impose flight restrictions. The flight restricted areas are divided into two protection categories. So like it says here for categories, there's a takeoff restricted zone, which is basically no fly, altitude restricted zones, and warning zones in general. So from the sounds of this, for people like in say North America, this wouldn't apply, but that's kind of interesting to see that I guess this drone does have something like that. So I guess in the future, if they say now we demand something like this, then technically they could implement it into the drone, like just through things like software. And then we just get down to some of the general specs, even though we've talked about most of them so far. Like here it says the max takeoff weight for this would be 1,000 grams or 2 pounds. And this is another big one, I guess. It says for the flight time, according to this, it says 35 minutes. So that's actually really good for a drone itself. Of course, everyone knows in practice it probably won't fly for that full cycle, but that's actually really good, 35 minutes. And then here the camera specifications is a little confusing because those other ones it says the gimbal and stuff can operate at what, -10, but here it says camera specifications, operating environment temperatures 0 to 40 degrees Celsius. So can you fly this thing like in the freezing cold or not? So I think that's actually really exciting to read. This product is probably coming soon as well. Who knows what will come next, because I know DJI is supposed to release some new revisions and stuff in 2020, like in the new year, but this gives people so many options. That's going to be great for 2020, I think. You have like the new Skydio 2, you have this, and whatever DJI is bringing out, more competition the better. Makes you wonder how much is this going to cost, because that sounds really expensive. Like for example, the 6K and 8K camera, especially the ones with the thermal camera with 30 FPS, if that's correct. I mean, in many cases, just the thermal camera itself to get like that kind of frame rate could range from like what, $2,000 like Canadian just for the camera, so it's going to be expensive there. Then again, that's more for like professionals and emergency workers and stuff like that, I would assume. I'm just kind of excited to see what the video is going to be like in terms of the quality, because that is a really good option just based on all the specs. How about everyone else? Would you be excited about this as well? Whoa. Oh, how many peanuts do you have? Alright, see you guys later.